All right, thanks, Nick. So, our next guest is going to be debuting at Soul Joel's tonight, 8 o'clock. You can get tickets at souljoels.com. By the way, I even know him from years on Mike and Molly and Bob Hart's Abishola and his many appearances on the Preston and Steve show.
About it.
Please welcome Billy Gardell.
Hey, look at that. All right, golf clap. I love that. Thank you. I just got it. How are you, boys? Thank you for having me back.
Always.
It's a pleasure.
It's been many years.
Yeah.
Many years since I was in the studio. We actually talked for interviews over the years, and you guys have always been great to me. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Well, our pleasure. We were talking before we came on, and I said, I remember you coming in here in a pretty big, like a badass black leather jacket, and you described the thing, Preston, I think that we all have happened with our wives. Would you please stop wearing that thing? And that's what happened
I
with you.
wore that thing down to where it was like paper mache. My wife's like, enough. I think she actually took it at one point and tossed it. Yeah, you know how they eventually they just go, this is leaving. And then you're like, have you seen my? I don't know where it's at. Liar, liar.
By the way, Billy, speaking of wardrobe,
Yes, sir.
Are you done buying clothes that fit now?
I dropped 173.
Yeah.
I went from a young Jackie Gleason to an old Paul Newman. I'm in the color of money phase of my career now.
All right.
But
he won an Oscar.
It's been a journey, man. I still don't recognize myself, which is pretty wild. The only thing, it's weird because I got my anonymity back. I walk around, but nobody recognizes me.
Okay.
And that's kind of cool.
But clothes are a big part
when
of
I
that.
talk, my shirts used to cover the mound at Dodger Stadium. And now I pick stuff up and I go, that's not going to fit. Hey, it fits. Wow.
So the thing is, and anyone who goes through it knows you kind of keep a couple things in reserve in case there's a bit of a slide.
No,
Never
I
had
don't give
to-
myself any safety nets because I don't want to
It's the
go
way
back.
to do it.
I did keep one thing as a reminder, though. I think my highest was 380, 375, 380, something like that. And I kept one of those big Jackie Gleason suits I used to have, and that just hangs in my closet as a reminder, like, hey.
You got to sell it to David Byrne?
Yeah, exactly. Get him in. This is not my house. Yeah, exactly. That'd be perfect.
I do when I find myself sliding because my weight fluctuates from time to time. I will take a piece of clothing that has become too tight for me to wear,
right?
And I hang it up in my closet in front of me, so that's the first thing I see when I walk in every day. And that's the goal. I leave it. I need a visual goal of some type.
100,
and it works. Yeah,
you still got to change everything. You got to change your brain.
Yeah,
I tell like the way I did it was. Because this gets misconstrued on the internet because everything on the internet is trash anyway. and thank you for those of you that are listening today. You still have a brain and an attention span, and we appreciate you here. But, when you make a change like I did bariatric surgery 4 years ago, but you still have to change everything you eat, the way you exercise, all that stuff. People always ask me how I did it, and they go, "Oh, you were on Ozempic." I was at the very beginning of Ozempic, but that was for type 2 diabetes. They hadn't figured out if they increased the dose that it was a weight loss drug. I didn't know anything. If I'd have known that, I would have stayed on that. Yeah. But I had some medical stuff I just had to change, so I did it that way. But I always tell people, it's just anything you do is a window to change, but if you don't change the way you think, you're going to gain it back. Mm-hmm. It's just so I just try to be pretty strict with what I do every day. And, the Fat Hulk is still in there.
Is that what you call the Fat Hulk?
He is. He's in there at any time. My eyes turn red.
I'll tell you what.
I'll be cutting a carrot now here. Pizza! No, we're not doing that right now. Stop it.
Preston is really, really good at somehow harnessing that willpower that he needs to. Mm-hmm. And I know because I've yo-yoed up and down so many times, especially over the last.
Well, that's the fat guy dance, like we were talking about in the lobby. Down 30, up 40, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
I was in that cycle forever.
Yeah.
Forever.
And you were kind of on the precipice, right? Health-wise.
Oh yeah, no, I was in trouble when I was at my highest. Eventually, I got. At one point I had type 2 diabetes. My blood pressure was crazy. My cholesterol was crazy. My resting heartbeat was like 138.
Wow.
That's sitting still.
Wow.
Now it's 68.
Yeah.
So I changed all that stuff. And what did it for me was it was a perfect storm for me. We had when I got to the point where I had to do something drastic, like I said, I had developed type 2 diabetes. I had blood pressure problems, cholesterol problems, pulse problems, heart, all this stuff. And then COVID hit. That first wave of COVID. I don't know. Did that happen here? I have to ask. Everywhere I go, I have to ask. I don't know.
Some states it didn't.
So, but when they brought up those earmarks for the people that were in the most danger for that first wave, like sleep apnea, smoker, asthma, overweight, type 2. I was like, bingo, I got them all. So I had to make a drastic change to survive. And so I didn't do this to look better. I just did it because I was in trouble. And gratefully now I'm not on any medicine, got no trouble with my diabetes or anything.
That's great.
The type 2 went away, basically. And so now, I got a new lease on life.
All right, so how has that affected your comedy?
Man, a lot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because I used to be the guy that I could walk into a place like, get out of the way. Now I'm like, I'm sorry, did I bump you? So the energy changed on stage a little bit, and I had to find my footing again. It was a challenge because I didn't take up as much space as I used to. I just didn't have that gravitational force. So the first few months back on stage, because I had taken 3 years off of stand-up, I thought I was done. And then I had some friends annoy me back on stage that I'm grateful for. I had Christopher Titus, Steve Byrne, Alonzo Bowden, Jay Leno, and Ian Bagg, and a few others like, what are you doing? Get it. So I'm like, no, I'm done. I'm at peace. Leave me alone. I'm done.
Right.
And then I went down with my wife to Irvine to see Ian Bagg perform, and he was having one of those nights where he's just slicing the audience in half.
Yeah.
I mean, everything was working, just crushing it.
Yeah.
And I got that weird twitch in my shoulder, and I looked at my wife. I go, oh, no. She goes, no. I go, yeah. I think I got to go back. So I want to come back and see if there was another hour in there. And
did she try to bargain by letting you have that coat back?
No, the coat was gone. She had no bargaining chips.
No bargaining chips.
She couldn't bribe me. So.
No, it's interesting about that, and you talk about just the sheer physicality of what you were, and you're not. Your legend wasn't that you were a brawler, but you were.
No, but I was just this big force. I was a big, loud force.
Yeah.
And it's so that changed a little bit, and then. And like I said, your movement, your confidence changes, and then I had to get that back, and then slowly but surely it came back, and I'm kind of finding my way again, which is cool.
It is interesting when you think about the whole the weight loss industry and all the stuff with Ozempic and Mounjaro and all that stuff, and yet I remember seeing, and I know it wasn't accurate, but I saw an ad. I think it was you, and it clearly faked, or they had AI'd you or whatever. Talking about the gummy bears.
Oh,
yeah.
Dude, that's why I tell people I'm just very open with what I did, because the internet, again, it's just all trash. They AI'd my voice. They said I ate magic gummy bears to lose weight. Now, I shouldn't have to say that's fake, but there's always one slow person that will walk up to me and go, did the gummy bears work? And I'm always like, dude, gummy bears is what got me in trouble in the first place. Carry the one, man. Stay with me here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty open about all of it. So because it's your only defense.
Well, and then also
they did that to everybody who lost weight, and they did it to Kelly Clarkson. They did it to right away. And then the misery online makes us forget we're human beings.
Yeah.
Like when I was heavy, the stuff I'd get online is he needs to lose some weight, and then I lose the weight, and like I think he's sick. Like what are you just sitting in your basement? Looking for misery, is that it?
You didn't lose the weight the right way.
Yeah, that's it. There's no wrong way. Just lose the weight. That's it. That's the game. Get out of prison. That's the game.
Well, going back to just taking care of yourself, right before we started the interview, we were playing a Tom Petty song, and you were at his last show. And I was at his last show in Philadelphia, which is about a month before he died.
Right.
And Tom was not well at the end of his life. He was not in great shape.
He had a fractured, something was fractured in his hip, which is why he was taking some pain medicine.
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff.
exactly right. Yeah.
And, I'm very working class, and I'm very Irish. I don't give myself a lot of stuff. I started this whole thing with a pen and a notebook. My wife and kids live in a bubble. Those two, they get whatever they want. But, I'm pretty Irish. I'm like, I'll just go to work. The sun is for others to look at. But the thing is that the two things I do allow myself is musical outings and first-class travel. I'm never going back ever.
And it's not outlandish.
Ever again. I made it past the curtain. I'm never going back. But I go to the Hollywood Bowl. That's my favorite venue in the world to see shows. It's California sun, the stars, the evening goes down, you're outdoors. The legends have all performed at the Hollywood Bowl. I mean, the energy in there is just killer. So I park up in the valet area and the nice area up there, and I'm pretty good friends with those guys. And I know one of the security guards up there, and as we pulled in that night, we were just saying hello, and my wife and I were there, and he said, he goes, Mr. Petty's not looking good tonight. He looks ill.
Wow.
I said, oh, really? And he said, yeah, I hope he's okay. So then we go in and we watch the show, and he was electric. The show was unbelievable. And then the next day he had passed away, man. And you would have never known it from the performance he gave. But, yeah, it happened,
it was
the next day.
a shock. I mean, I talk about one of the great experiences of my concert-going life was being, the venue here in New Jersey, and same sort of amphitheater, setup, and we had generationally from young teenagers all the way up, Tom Petty. And I'm out on the lawn with my wife, arms around her, and everyone is singing all the songs together. Man. It was like, and that was a Petty concert. That's what you get.
That's why Neil Young's off my list. He's off my list.
Yeah.
I used to adore that guy, and he finally came to the bowl. I got tickets, paid a fortune for him. That guy didn't sing one song we could sing. I swear to God, it sounded like he wrote the album on the way over to the venue. I'm like, Neil, you can't play Cinnamon Girl or Down by the River. Can we just sing with you one time? Yeah, no. You know who else does that crap? Dylan.
That's what I
saw
said,
Dylan. Yeah. And what he'll do is it'll be 10 minutes into a song, and you're like, oh, this is Route 66, and you rearrange it. I want to sing with you.
We had Rob Zombie on the show one time. Preston goes, and we're interviewing. We've had him on a couple times. He's great.
Right.
And so Preston says to him, so you're going to do some new stuff tonight? And he goes, no. People want to hear that. They want to hear this.
Give us 3 or 4 new ones. That's when we'll go pee or get a beer. Come on, give us a break, man. That's why I love Bruce.
Yeah.
You just sing.
Yeah. And I forgot who was saying it, but it's a comedy and music are polar opposites.
Right.
Yeah. If you have a special, people have seen it. If they come to see you, you do that stuff, they're walking out of there.
Exactly
if you're a band and they know all these hits, and if you don't play any of them, they're out of there.
That's exactly 100.
So I saw Dylan and Neil Young. I went to Old Cella.
Oh, my God.
So Old Cella at the...
Old Cella?
Yeah, so it was in the Coachella Valley, but it was 3 nights of concerts, and it was the Stones, The Who, Paul McCartney, Pink Floyd, Dylan, and Neil
what a
Young.
Show.
Yes, it was amazing. So Dylan comes out, opens up with a Rainy Day Woman. I'm like, okay, he's going to, and then proceeded to do 2 hours of stuff. I had no clue what it was. At one point, he was doing Tangled Up in Blue, and I didn't know it was Tangled Up in Blue.
Dude, it made me so mad. I was screaming at Neil Young, too.
So,
come on!
Counting Crows, and I love Counting Crows.
Love the Counting Crows.
But in concert, no.
Well, Adam changes the melodies.
Changes it up. Yeah, we want to
Too
sing
much.
with you. It's the joy you bring us. Let us have some of that.
You want to say, I'm sorry you're bored with it, but we as the consumers of your art want to see it.
Because music is usually a timepiece.
Yeah.
The right song can take you to a moment in your life, and we want to feel that when we go. And I love that you're writing new stuff, but give me 3 or 4 bangers that I can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, speaking of you and your line of work in stand-up, which is your first love, you were just saying, as you produce, are you currently working on a new special?
I'm working on a new hour. Yeah, I'm about halfway there. So when I came back, I had to do a bunch of old stuff just to get back on stage, and then the process starts, and you start finding the threads of what you. When I do, I'm slow. Like some guys sit down and write at a computer, and they're very prolific. I wish I was. I'm not. I'm a guy scribble something in a notebook, and then I kind of work it on stage. And so I'm probably at half new and half greatest hits. And so as a new one comes in that I like, I take an old one out, and that forms the new hour. And the way I do it is I do it like a football game, quarter. So first 15 is going to be about something, second 15. And I now have those pieces, so now it's just a matter of filling in, and that's why I'm out touring now. And hopefully I'll get to do a special next year.
You have such a casual on-stage presentation. The stuff is sharply written, though.
Yeah, so, I try to be grounded.
Yeah. Are you the kind? Do you, at this point, even so, it's your sort of second birth in the world of stand-up? Do you all the muscle memory come back, or is there a bit of sweating it out?
I think a little bit of both. Yeah. Definitely, when I came back, there was a sweating it out period. Like the not doing. One thing about stand-up, it's like golf. If you put that club down, for 2 months, you're rusty. And I was on the bench for 3 years.
Yeah.
So it took probably 4 or 5 months to get up to where I can hit the ball again good. And now I'm there. And that took a minute.
It takes some balls. You've had not one, but you had two.
Who does that happen to?
With one of the greatest showrunners in TV behind you both times.
Yep.
So, and then other shows that you've obviously done. That shift to back to stand up. Let me ask you, and just with the physical shift, we had, Rebel Wilson was talking about how when she dropped weight, the roles. People weren't seeing her that way anymore, and the roles dried up. What's the situation with you right now? You said you might be going into a new.
Well, I lost my weight during the second sitcom, which was Bob Hart's Abishola. I did the surgery over the third season summer, and then people who watched that show kind of saw my weight go down.
Right.
For those 2 years. But then there's a pocket of people that just saw Mike and Molly that when they see me now, it's like, you're thin, you're old. I'm like, that was 15 years ago, Jeff. Wake up. Yeah. But it is definitely it's a shift physically and mentally. And but it's again, you got to keep growing as an artist. And this, yes, the roles do slow down because, Hollywood sees when you do something successful, they see you as that.
It's the legend, right?
So you have to go and do different things to show them you can do other things. I just did an independent film where I played a gambling addict who's like a burned out comic from the 1980s. It's on Amazon now. It's called The Vortex. It was a little indie film I did. But now is the time I'm trying to showcase, I can do this too. I can do this now too. But you got to kind of show them before they'll go with it.
No, I hear you.
I want to ask you an acting question, Billy.
Sure.
So see if you can tell me what is in common with all of these credits.
Okay.
King of Queens, Yes Dear, Heist, My Name is Earl, Once Upon a Time in Venice, Extended Family, Tune In With Me. You were in all of those.
Well, yeah, what is in common with all those? Trying to think. Is it a person?
Well, other than you are the person, then do you want the answer?
Yeah.
Every one of those credits, you played a person named Bill or Billy.
Yeah. Really? For a while there, I was like, do they think I'm too stupid to answer to anything else? I was Billy and everything. I guess I just look like a Billy. That's right. Billy Kellner, Billy. A lot of that is because I knew the producers.
Okay.
The King of Queens one was a random one. That was the first guest starring part I ever did, and Kevin James was great with me, and Patton Oswalt, who I just cannot say enough about that guy's brilliance. Yeah. I mean, he is just one of the best to do it, and such a cool human. They were great, and I'd known them from stand-up before I got on there, and that just happened to be Billy. But with Yes Dear, I'm good friends with Greg Garcia, who was the executive producer of that show.
And My Name is Earl.
And My Name is Earl, and he put me on that one, too, and he just put Billy in there. And then my friend Rob Cullen wrote Once Upon a Time in Venice, and he's like, hey, do you want to come down and scream at Bruce Willis while he's naked? I was like, yeah, I'm not doing nothing, sure. And so he put me down as Billy, and then in the Heist, those were the same producers. So they kind of knew me, and I think they just, it fits because I was always a last name guy in high school. You know how there's a few last name guys? So I was always, where's Gardell? Yeah. Gardell had that. So I guess that thing just kind of carried over for the people in Pittsburgh,
You played Tom Parker
I did, man.
Right.
I'm very proud of that performance, actually. It was a short-lived series on CMT. It was directed by Roland Joffe. And we did the story of Sun Records, which was Sam Phillips. He brought rock and roll. Actually, he gave a place for rock and roll to be born because it was a mixture of church music, gospel, and the Delta blues. And he was kind of the convergence of that.
It's a fascinating story.
It's an incredible story. And then the $1 Million Quartet there was Elvis Presley, Carl Perkins, Johnny Cash, and Jerry Lee Lewis. And I played Colonel Parker, who was at the time just a con man who'd come over here and was trying to put together his thing. And to get to play that was great because my dad was a huge Elvis fan. So, and I'm actually in Graceland now. They have across from Graceland, they have the car museum.
Yeah,
no kidding.
They put our mock-up of Sun Studios over there, the set. And
no kidding.
There's a poster of the Drake Milligan, who's become a country star, who played Elvis. And then next to it is me as Colonel Parker. And what a treat to play that because my dad was such an Elvis. Like, my dad was the only guy I ever knew. I said this before a million times, but he's the only guy I knew who hated the Beatles. Because, and I quote,
Right.
those hippies knocked Elvis off the throne. And so he was an Elvis. So for him to
was
get
a
to
thing.
see that was great. It was a great, It was some of the best work I've done. Nobody saw it because it was on CMT. It's streaming now on Paramount, but the kids who played the quartet were phenomenal.
I watched a clip,
it's a really good show. And CMT got the price tag, and they said, well, let's go back to shows where people catch fish with their arms. But that's the world we're living in now. And I'm very proud of that work.
I never watch anything on CMT if I'm scrolling through the guide to see what movies are on, because I'm still that person. I still scroll and just find movies and jump in. And if I see it's like, Trading Spaces is on. It's on CMT. I'm like, oh, that'll be like 5 hours long.
That's what they do. They
put
19,000 commercials. Exactly.
You take a simple little short circuit is like
it's now the Godfather Coda.
Jesus Christ. It's like, come on. They just jam it full of stuff.
By the way, that museum across the street from Graceland is just as cool as Graceland.
It is, man. It's got all his cars in there and a bunch of other stuff. It's really cool.
There's the walk a mile in my shoes, or there's a documentary about. I learned and gained such an appreciation for Elvis just by going through that museum.
It's pretty amazing to do what he did. And, the Colonel never let him leave America because the Colonel was afraid he'd get deported. So that's why he kept Elvis. And Elvis was still a worldwide act. Which was amazing.
Where was the Colonel from?
I think it was Holland. He was Dutch.
Yeah, no kidding.
And when I played him, I actually got a couple nice comments online that people liked mine better than Tom Hanks's, which blew me away. But I made mine more fun. I think he just played a stoic, dry guy.
Right.
But what the difference was when I went down there, I talked to the head of the CEO of Graceland and some of the Memphis Mafia who all knew the Colonel. And they said, you have to play him with a gleam in his eye because he did all these horrid things, but he made you think it was a good idea. And he couldn't have done that if he wasn't a great con man.
I mean, the story, I read a book years ago about him, decades ago, and he would do things like take sparrows and paint them yellow and sell
he's
them
out of his mind.
Canary. I mean, like he was the ultimate con man.
Oh, he was the first guy that, there you go. He was the first guy that, he was the first guy to hold the concert longer when it was hot, and then he would sell fans and lemonade before he let the acts go. Like any way to make money he could, he would. And he was a huge gambling fiend too.
Yes.
If you're just joining us, we're talking to Billy Gardell, who's going to be at Soul Joel's tonight in Pottstown, 8 o'clock. You can get tickets at souljoels.com. We were just looking at clips from
that's so cool.
The
Why
movie.
don't you guys get that?
We've got our buddy Sam in the other room pulling those things up.
Sam, you got to send that to me. That's really cool.
There was a shot of you naked in a bathtub.
Yeah, that one wasn't easy.
I was going to say.
That was not easy on the eyes.
Is that the most naked you've been?
I was, man.
Okay.
And I had to. It was such a weird scene to shoot. I get pounded by the loan sharks. Find me in the tub and they just beat me bloody.
Wow.
And I had to do that scene, and man, that was scary as a fat guy. But you know what was cool, man? I'd gotten along with the camera guys so well, and they knew I was nervous and scared to do that. Because, dude, you need something funny. You need the bad guy. I'm your guy. But nobody's saying, get Gardell in here for a romantic scene. No one's So I was really nervous about that. But the camera guys were so cool. The two of them took their shirts off and put their cameras back on. They were out of shape, too. They're like, we're with you, Bill. Go ahead.
So as an actor, when you're working on something, there's going to be some, and you're going to be portrayed as unflattering.
Yeah.
Can you talk to the director about that?
I think you know that going in because you read the script and you know that this is part of it. And we talked about that scene and it was real. It really happened. He got beat bloody in a tub for the money he owed. And I said, well, we got to play that, man. Yeah. And so you got to remember to let go and run towards those things that make you uncomfortable because that's where your best performances are going to come.
Yeah, he ended up locked into Vegas because of the Colonel Tom Parker's gambling. Yeah, and they basically said, okay, we're going to cover you this if you make sure. They built the damn hotel for him.
100%.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's a fascinating story. Do you own any Elvis memorabilia?
I have somebody gave me, I have one of the Colonel's, he used to wear bolo ties, and I have one of his bolo ties that they gave me as a gift down there, which was really cool. And I just, the Elvis stuff, man, we got to take a tour of Graceland, and we got to see some of the rooms nobody gets to see, which was really cool.
That's cool.
Got to go upstairs, which was really cool.
Isn't it surprising when you first see it? And
it's so small.
It's small.
Yeah. You can't,
it's
but
small.
back then, that would have been a castle.
A palace, yeah.
And so it was just neat because, like I said, my dad's a child of the 50s, and he would, before he passed, I got to take him there. Did that with him, which was great.
Did they show you the bathroom where he was found?
No.
Okay,
Although
that's like
I
off
did want to
limits.
ask.
Yeah,
it's just a morbid curiosity.
Sure.
Is that where he died? Did he die?
Crazy. He died in the bathroom.
Okay, yeah.
He was literally, he
I know. I know where he died. I didn't know if it was in Graceland.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, going on another point, talk about Mike and Molly and all that stuff, and when that part of your career kicked in from stand-up.
Yeah.
You've talked about this in a number of interviews, and you're a regular guy, and at that point you had all this in front of you, which could have led you in 9 different bad ways.
Sure.
Why do you think you were able to keep the lid on that? Because that was a hit show.
Yeah, it was, and I had quit drinking 2 years before that show happened, so that was a big help. But I think what kept me from staying out of trouble is my wife and kid,
Yeah.
I'm a very Pittsburgh guy. And so I looked at that like I'm clocking in at the factory, and what's really important is at home. And as long as I keep that focused, then I'm okay. I would have been a bigger, probably, celebrity if I was better at the paparazzi and press game, but I'm like, I'm doing my job and going.
Right.
If CBS didn't say you need to be at this event, I didn't go. I got invited to a bunch of stuff, but again, I'm a Pittsburgher, man. I'm going home. I got a pool. I got a yard. I'm sorry. I got a big screen TV. What exactly? What else do I got? A hot rod in the garage. I'm check. Wife and kid are okay. We got insurance. I'm gold.
When you were a kid, you vacationed in this area?
Well, what do you mean?
I mean, because looking back at your history, it says you'd spent some time in the Philly area.
I used to work in Philly as a stand-up a lot because I lived in New York for a little while.
All right.
And so I would come down here and do a lot of work. You'd hit the clubs down here, and that was the East Coast pocket, the Northeast pocket. Like I would do, Philly and parts of Connecticut and of course Manhattan, and do my hustle. I was in this area for like I said, I was born in Pittsburgh. I lived there till my parents split right before high school. But then I went to Orlando. That's where I started stand-up. Then I lived in Atlanta. Then I lived in New York. Then I lived in Chicago. Then I did all the road gigs in between.
You've hit them all.
And then I moved out to California.
Were you bet into your first stand-up gig?
Yeah, well, the story with that is when I was 17, I was working in a warehouse, the back warehouse part. There used to be a store called Zayre's. Do you remember Zayre's?
Is that like a department store?
Yeah, well, it was like what Target became.
Okay.
And in the back, they had a shipping and receiving area where they would, get their deliveries, and I was stacking pallets and pricing stuff so the stock crew could take stuff out. And I worked back there with 3 guys, and I kept telling them, I'm going to do stand-up, man. And they just got tired of hearing it, and they all said, all right, man, we'll bet you $50 you won't each. So that was $150, and I had to go do it because if I lost, I couldn't cover that bet. So it was nice years later to bring those guys out and let them see what I do, and it was really cool.
That is cool. Yeah. That's awesome.
Nice.
So when are you going to actually have, if you're on your calendar, when do you think you'll have enough to do this special?
I would like to ideally shoot, because once I get it where I want it, then I want to polish it again for another 6 months so that it's just airtight.
Are you your own worst critic?
Oh.
Yeah.
Are you
brutal on yourself?
4 guys could beat me to death with bats and not do the worst I do to myself. And but I think I'd like to shoot for next summer. Is what I'm hoping for. Yeah.
Is it sort of a double-edged sword or sort of bittersweet? You've worked on this material, and when you cast it off into the ether. It used to not be this case. A touring comedian could tour with the material because it's not getting that kind of exposure.
Right.
But now you're kind of closing the curtain.
You let it go.
Yeah.
Well, it disappears really quick, but what eats it quicker is this social media. You got to keep posting stuff on social media. And I'm a guy that likes to stand on his work. If you look at my Instagram, which I just got to about 4 months ago because I'm right on top of things. But it's all my stand-up because the problem is I'm from Gen X, and we were told never to sell out, never cheapen it, and don't be fake. So I have a hard time. Like, I can't post stuff like, hey, everybody, I'm eating olives. Like, I can't. It just makes me want to throw up in my mouth. So I just post my work. But the problem with that is it evaporates so quick. But it's so fragmented. What I'm finding is, even if you do, like, most people will see a bit or two, but they're not going to see all the bits. So you can still feel free to kind of.
It's a Whitman sampler.
But once you do the special, like you said, you got to have something behind that for when they come see you when you tour.
Yeah. If you have a joke and you've crafted it in your mind and you love it passionately, like you feel like this is something that's going to work, and then you take it on the road, is the audience response what the litmus test is?
Always.
For you to keep it. Yeah.
For me, that is. they tell you, they're judge and jury every time, and that's the beauty of live entertainment. I mean, they're going to yes or no every time. I don't want to be clever and quiet. I want to break some ribs and leave.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get to Soul Joel's tonight and tell Billy what you think about him while you're there.
Yeah, please do.
The show is at 8 o'clock. You can go to souljoels.com. If you haven't been there yet, Pottstown, great room, and Billy will be there this evening. It is wonderful to see you, man.
Guys, thank you so much. And again, thank you for the support over the years. You guys have always been behind me on Mike and Molly and Bob Hartz. I've done interviews with you from L.A. It's nice to see you today, but I do appreciate the support over the years. It is nice to stop in and talk to people that have been behind you, and I do appreciate it.
And we'll always be there.
Yeah,
We
guys.
appreciate
Thank
you coming by here. Billy Gardell, guys.
Yeah, golf clap.
We'll take a break.